find a place to relax. I found an article that I was going to talk about, but I thought it was so well written I would read it to you because I couldn't say it as well as it's written. And the reason I went looking for this article, I remember seeing it a long time ago, maybe 30 years ago. And I was here in our neighborhood. I was talking to the monks about this last week. And there was a man who just, he made me go numb when I saw him. I didn't know how to respond. That's unusual for me. And he was coming down the street. I've seen him many times. He has his entire body tattooed. His head, his face, and he has steel balls inserted under his skin, and he's all distorted. And he looks like he's somewhere in his 30s. And he shocked me when I saw him. I've seen him before, but I never walked right up to him. I was going down 3rd Street, and I turned on Avenue B, and he was coming. He came right face to face with me. And I wanted to cry. I felt how sad that someone would see themselves like that. That that's what they have to do to be who they are. And I thought, wow, we all do that. We all take the incredible image that God made and we destroy it. We don't keep it as He planned. We destroy it. And I was thinking about it, and I went online and found this article. And the title of this article is, "Love is the only thing that's believable. No one and nothing else on this earth is believable except love." Most people don't experience love. They don't understand it. And one of the attributes, one of the visible signs of love being present is beauty. And so you see so many people who have lost the beauty of who they are because they have no love. And people are suffering terribly because they don't know, first of all, that they are loved, and secondly, they don't know how to respond to love. And therefore, beauty, sometimes, instead of being a reflection of love, beauty to them becomes ugly. This man obviously had a reflection in his mind of what he should be, what he thought beauty was. But it was not beauty. And I would venture to say he probably wasn't loved and didn't know how to love. How could you love something that looked like that? And the torment it must have been if he had parents, for his parents to see such a thing. But I want to read this to you and see if it makes any sense. One of the great challenges of our society today is to make sense of the world we live in. There is war everywhere right now. Greed, brothers hating brothers, this insanity about money. And I just saw online, we were talking about earlier, that the Ukrainian forces attacked a Russian convoy, and the stock market dropped instantly for fear there'd be a war and people would lose their investments. There's no concern over the fact that brother is killing brother. There's concern over the fact, oh, we're going to lose our money, and everybody's panicked. There's no relation. People don't feel love. They don't feel part of anything. If you talk to somebody today about God, or about truth, or about what is the purpose of life, they go, oh, God, here we go again. Who wants to hear this? They're bored. with the idea that there is something in the other life. They have a boredom with all of life. Americans are bored to death with being alive. So they have to constantly entertain themselves. They have to constantly distract themselves, entertain. How pathetic. I don't know how I ever grew up without a phone. When I see everybody going down the street all the time with the phone, constantly on the phone. And you say, what about relationship? No relationship, that's that stupid machine. And it's sad. We are lonely as a people. People are desperate. Walking, confused, don't know what it's all about. What moves us? What gets us interested? What makes us care? Oftentimes, beauty does. But when you don't know about love, and you don't know about what real beauty is, you oftentimes get trapped in those things that aren't beautiful. And you pursue the ugly, thinking it's beautiful. And we become distorted. How do we reach people? And how do we even begin to tell people about what is true, what is real? How do we ourselves find out how to love, how to be connected? Everyone is drawn to what they think is beautiful. And in finding the beauty, oftentimes one then in turn finds the one who is beautiful and falls in love with him. But let me give you some ideas. You can see what you can think of this. Let me find where I am here now. We know as Christians that beauty is a reflection of God. And that's why we have to know that what God made is beautiful, not what we make is beautiful. Oftentimes, we try and make ourselves represent what we think we are. And then it tells everybody who you think you are. And sometimes it's heartbreaking to see how confused people can be. Around here in particular, you see everything. Strange and interesting people. Beauty captures people. If you see something that is beautiful to you, it can be something, someone, you instantly are caught by that beauty. That beauty sends something out to you, and you are beguiled by the beauty, and the beauty calls to you, and you desire to have it. When it is someone, not something, that is beautiful, then the response to that beauty is love. Oftentimes, we use the expression that I was overcome by that person. I was knocked out when I saw them. I was slayed by their beauty. That we realize that beauty attracts us. We realize that beauty comes from an inner light. It isn't just a thing. It is what that beauty represents that we are drawn to. We all desire a relationship that is connected to the beautiful. But the problem is, all relationships that we understand that are connected to love don't work. They don't last. Every single person in this room maybe is, has been, or will be in love, but if you're in love with another human being, they're going to die. So that love is not going to continue in and of that person by themselves. But love does continue. Because love is the relationship of God to man, man to God. and we see the beauty of that person. We see the wonder in that person, and we're drawn to them. We want that relationship. And so we constantly keep going, and then we get disappointed. We meet somebody, we think they're wonderful, and then we find out, my God, they're as selfish as I am. And then we're disillusioned. We find out that we don't want them, we want what they represent for us. And then we're disillusioned and we're lost. Love is disappointing because we don't know what it is. And so we are running, looking for somebody, looking for something that will answer. The object sends out its rays of beauty, and we're smitten by that beauty, but we don't know how to respond because we don't know what it means. Because love is alien to most of us. Today, our world doesn't understand love. We have allowed beauty to be artificial. There is I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know about National Geographic magazine. There was a cover of National Geographic, maybe within the last 10 years, of this extraordinarily bizarre looking individual on the cover. Had a hat, and the face was painted partially white with eyes, but there was something beguiling in that picture. It looked, when you first saw it, as a woman. But as you looked at it more, you weren't sure if it was a woman or a man. You didn't know the age, and it was somebody from Morocco or someplace. But the person had become a caricature of a person, but didn't allow the person to come through. Totally covered with what they thought they were. And no one could see who they really were. They no longer became who they were. They became a caricature of a person. And you can't relate to that. You can't relate to something that's not real. Where does our beauty come from? Our beauty comes from God. And if that beauty doesn't reflect God, then that beauty becomes a trap. It doesn't lead us anywhere. It keeps us from going somewhere. If you look at yourself in a mirror and you don't see who you are in relationship to God, you become trapped in what you see. And then you try and change what you see to look like what you want to look like, and you end up disappearing. You're no longer you. Because you only are who God made you to be. Everyone's looking for that relationship that's going to last. But no human relationship lasts. Everybody dies. But does love last or doesn't it? According to our society, it doesn't. Love is what? 3 minutes? Whatever it takes. That's our society. And we consider what isn't love to be love. We consider what is love to be beyond us. We don't see how we're going to make it. The ordinary level of human existence is for now. But love is lasting. So why do we have such trouble having love relationships? Because we want everything now. And we want everything to gratify us, to entertain us, to distract us, to please us, and to meet the image we think we want to be. And so we lose. We've got to get beyond that. The only way we can get beyond that is what real love is. God loved us so much, He became man. And He showed the ultimate love that lasts. He died for us. He died for us, and we use the cross as a symbol of love and hope. It makes no sense. The ultimate love is spending yourself for the other. And that's what he did. We don't see that. We want it to be something else. And so we end up with nothing. We become seduced, and then we want to possess, and then we want to control, and then we want to consume, and then we lose it. And we start all over again. We all suffer from the inability to love. All of us. And the reason we suffer that inability to love is because we don't know who it is that loves us. And we don't understand who it is we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to look like. And therefore, I tell the brothers, we are spiritual moles. We are crawling around blindly, banging into things, hoping this is the next thing that works. We try everything, we try everyone, we get nothing, and we don't know where we're going or why we're going, but we're just doing it. The only thing that makes sense is love that is willing to die in order the other can live. Otherwise, how does life go on? How does love go on? And most of us don't taste that. We don't understand that. It's too beyond us. Because we have accepted what is not beautiful as being beautiful. We have accepted life as being all there is. We've accepted that we cannot possibly have love. We cannot possibly possess beauty. And we will never have life that lasts. Because life, beauty, and love are not concepts, but their relationship with someone. It's not about your ideas. It's not about what you want. It's about your relationship with the ultimate beauty, with the ultimate love, with ultimate life that lasts forever. And it starts now. But we don't get that. And so we play the silly game. I have to tell you a wonderful little story. Years ago, I was in New Haven, Connecticut, serving at a church there. And there was an old lady, Greek lady, who her husband had died. And so from the day her husband died, she wore black for the rest of her life. And she was, every time I would put the key in the church door, she was there. Didn't matter. She was always there. And she was a sweet old lady. Chrysanthia was her name. An incredible woman. She died. I had no idea she had a family. She never talked about children, whatever. Just, she was there. So, some of the old ladies said, oh, you know, her daughter lives in Florida. I said, I didn't know she had a daughter, you know. So, we laid her out, as you do, you know, in church. The undertaker came, took the body, was going to bring her back to church. Mama comes, the daughter, with the granddaughter. They come to church, and the undertaker opens the casket. And here is this lady whom I had known for about 8 years. Never saw her with makeup on. Always saw her with her hair tied back in a, bun. All black, scarf. That's how I saw her all the time. There she's laying in the casket, covered with makeup, her hair all done up, and she's in a light blue dress. And I was in shock. I thought, what is that? But I thought, well, I can't make a commotion because, And somebody thought that was beautiful. Not who she was, but what they thought was beauty. So everybody's coming up to give the farewell kiss. And the little granddaughter, they lift her up so she could give Grandma a kiss. She says, that's not Yaya. You got it, girl. That is not Grandma. That was not. She was the only one that said it, but everybody thought it. What do we do to ourselves? How can anyone love us if we don't love ourselves, if we don't love God? How? It's not going to happen. I remember there was a woman, I'm praying for you, Ethel. She was this extraordinary woman. Her name was Ethel Souza. And Ethel Souza weighed slightly more than an aircraft carrier. She was a very big girl. And Ethel was Portuguese. And a brilliant woman, absolutely brilliant. She'd scare you to death. She was so brilliant. And she used to run the salons in Paris. I don't know if you were familiar with that, but there was a culture in the academic world, used to be very predominant, where people of academic prowess would come to somebody's house and they would have a gathering, and there would be a philosophical or some kind of discussion on a topic. And they called them the salon. And she would hold them in her place because she taught several in Paris, law. And she always would bring them to God. The conversations would always come to Christ. Didn't start out there, but they always came back to it, and everybody knew it was coming. And Ethel would sit in her chair like the Dowager Empress, and she had her hair cut straight across and straight down and chopped off. No style, no makeup, nothing. And you look at her and you go, you know, she wasn't physically attractive. The minute she opened her mouth, it was like a flower blooming. She became the most beautiful person in the room because she was filled with love. She was filled with an acceptance of herself. She knew God, and she knew us. And everybody loved Ethel. You only had to meet her once. And then she was the star on your program. You wanted to see her as often as you could. She had the ability of taking all these lost people and showing them that God loved them, and showing them Christ in each other. Not some mythical Christ that was a beautiful painting or an historical figure, but right there, right now, he was here. Thank you, Ethel. She was extraordinary. She was funny and brilliant, and she said, I don't have an immediate family, but I have a huge family. And she said, when I die, I want to be buried from the Madeleine. And so somebody jokingly said, she thinks she's Napoleon. And so she says, nothing that mundane. She heard it, she was something greater. But she did have the funeral there, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people came. And everyone felt that she left part of herself with all of us. No one felt the loss of her going. We all felt she was with us. She had taught us. That's love. That's when the beauty came out and ensnared us all, and we were all enthralled by her beauty, and we all wanted part of it because the beauty was real. It wasn't cosmetic. It wasn't transitory. It was real because it was connected to us, to God, and to herself. That's how we will bring people to Christ. That's how our faith and the church will spread, because we emanate that beauty. We show people Christ by the fact that what you look like doesn't matter, because what you look like is Christ, and that's what matters. And we see our beauty because we see Him. And we see our beauty because beauty is not what the world says. I think I've told you this story, but when I was in a church here in New York for a while, and there was a couple that rather well-heeled, you all know what that term means, well-heeled, moneyed, and they came to liturgy on Sunday, and they looked at our crowd like, ooh, look at this motley group, and they gave us a once-over. And at the end of the liturgy, she said, well, the music was lovely. And I said, well, I'm glad you came. I hope you'll come again. And she says, Father, I need to ask you a question. I said, of course. She said, is every crazy person in New York in your parish? I said, not yet. We need to not see what the world sees when we see each other. We need to see what the Lord sees, and then we'll understand. Oh, who's that at the door? How about Christ before you open the door? Then whoever's going to be there is going to be wonderful. Going down the street and someone approaches you. Is it, oh, what do they want? Or, oh, thank you, Lord, you're here. Today I went to the doctor and came back, and I was coming down 3rd Street, and I got to the corner of 3rd and 2nd, and there was this, no, I'm sorry, it's 3rd and Bowery, and there was this man that I saw at the corner of my eye. I've seen him in the neighborhood before, and has some serious mental problems. And so he came up to me, and he went around I was waiting to go across the street, and he went around the telephone pole, so I didn't see him. He got on the side of me, he goes, he makes me start saying something, I didn't know what he said. And I looked at him, I started to laugh. And he kind of was taken back that I was laughing at him. And I said, are you supposed to try to scare me? What are you doing? And then he started to laugh. And there's this woman with her big eyes watching me. And she says, weren't you afraid of him? I said, no. I said, he's my brother. She says, was your father black? I said, what? And she says, well, he's black. I said, he's my brother. And she, oh, I get it. Yeah, but she was like, she could, like, he was actually my biological brother, and that's why I was talking to him. And I was coming home laughing at the same time thinking, you know, I mean, the comment was just so rare, you know, and I thought, but that's how we do things. She's not my sister. That's not my brother. I don't need to get involved. I don't need to care like he. Love is the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing that's believable. Do we care what someone looks like? If we love, we don't. Do we care what someone's done? If we love, we don't. Do we care what people say or don't say? If we love, we don't. We love them. We see them. And we don't worry about them standing behind a flagpole and saying stupid things in your ear. But if we don't love God, we don't recognize beauty as a light coming from God instead of something we want to own and possess, then I don't like how you sit, I don't like what you talk about, I don't like how you dress, I don't like what you said, you promised you'd do this, you didn't do that, you did. And then we've got everybody, all there is love. And we have so little of it. We're so afraid to love. And we can't love unless we love the lover, who's God. Without him, love is not possible. Because love will end as soon as a person goes, dies, whatever. It's over. But if we love him, it's never over. Ongoing in all of us. As they say in the liturgy, let us love one another so that with one mind and one heart we can say, I believe in God, the Father Almighty. We can't say it without love. We can't say it without understanding, with one mind and one heart. We can't. So we stand there like idiots, and it means nothing to us. Because we don't have one mind, one heart. We need to. I guarantee you, there'll be no war anywhere on earth if we do this. There'll be no trouble, no division, no hatred in our families, no divorces, no abuse at all. No one will turn to substance abuse. No one will turn to pornography, to aberrant sexual behaviors, to greed, to money, to whatever. It won't happen. We won't need to. Beauty will save the world. Because beauty is a sign of God's presence, which is love. So let us love one another. You're a very noisy crowd tonight.
How to people who consciously choosing to do evil stuff, like just not like they don't know, but consciously.
No, there is evil. But evil is the absence of good, the absence of love. Have you ever seen a child who hurts themselves? Sit there and they stab themselves with a knife or a fork, or they'll burn it because they can't make the connection of love. And so they want to shock people, they want to cause pain to people and pain to themselves because the absence of love is so great they can't function. That's what evil is. It's a violent reaction to the absence of love in their life. Not that God doesn't love them, but they don't know it, they can't respond, they don't respond, and what they respond to is the pain of the absence of relationship. If you have a child and the child is doing violence to itself, you don't scream at the child, you don't lock him in a room, you go over and you hold him, and you keep him from hurting himself, and you surround him with your love. If we, as Christians, would love, we'd stop violence in the world. We'd stop evil in the world. Not we, Christ. We can. But we don't get it. We're something else. Sure did put a stop, Dolly. I'm sorry.
But what do you think about this Robin Williams suicide?
Oh, it's very sad.
It's incredibly sad.
Yeah. You all heard of his suicide. I don't know if you watched his comedic acts. They were so over the top and so frenetic that you knew the man was isolated and you knew he was suffering. Nobody could be that bizarre and be connected. And I think what made his comedy so attractive is just there's that unanswered bizarreness in all of us. And he did what we were not able to express. He cried out with comedic behavior how empty life was, how crazy it all is. And we just laughed, didn't connect. When I was in Russia, this is a while back, I met with some priests and people at the university. And I said, why don't we go out tonight, this is in St. Petersburg, to the clubs and go see all the young people who are lost and tell them they don't have to be lost. He said, are you crazy? I said, well, of course I'm crazy. I'm a Christian. I said, let's go. And they said, they won't want us there. I said, why, have you gone? Well, no. I said, then how do you know? And that no one will go with me. If we would reach the lonely, we could stop it. I didn't mean this to be a downer. I thought I'd perk you all up on Friday night. Now you're all going to go out and jump out from the third floor here.
How to stay conscious every minute.
Ah. Well, that's easy, but it's difficult. It's simple, not easy. It's simple, but it's difficult. The way we remain conscious is that we love the other more than we love ourselves. The reason I don't think about you is because I'm thinking about me. And so the reason I don't spend time taking care of you is because I'm taking care of me. Yeah. We've got to start small. We've got to start every time we see someone making an effort to let them know we see love in them, we see beauty in them. I told you about the time I was in the subway with this subway station. We were feeding people, and this woman said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "We're feeding people who are hungry." She says, "Why?" I said, "Because they're hungry." And she says, "You're just going to give them food?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Can I do it too?" I said, "Sure, come along." So she had some flowers and a cake in a box. And we went down in the station, and there was this big lump on one of the benches. You know, they didn't have in those days, they didn't have those dividers, so you couldn't sleep on the benches. And then somebody's sleeping on the bench with a blanket over it and papers. And so I said, "We have some food. Would you like something to eat?" And this woman peeled the paper back, and she looked. And she was looking at the two of us, and she says, "What do you have?" And I said, "Soup and a sandwich." She said, "I'd rather have the flowers." And the woman, "You know what? She wants my flowers." You know, she didn't say anything. And so she says, "Can I have the flowers?" And she gave her the flowers. And she was kind of like, why does she want the flowers? And then she says, "Can I have the cake too?" So she took the cake. And the woman said to me, "Why did she do that?" And I said, "Because she likes beauty too." There was probably very little in her life that was beautiful. And she probably hadn't had a cake in years. She wanted some, and the woman started to cry. She said, I didn't think of that. I wanted beauty in my apartment, and I wanted something good, and I didn't think other people would too. Beauty changes us. We forget. Every once in a while, when I'm down the street, I buy flowers and just bring them just to have them. God's presence is beauty.
And the opposite of beauty is ugliness.
Yes.
And the world is becoming every time.
But the only ugly is lack of love.
It's Satan.
It's not physical. That's right.
Satan is ugly
Yes.
because
He lacks love.
and people lately everything is resembling. People try to resemble them.
I saw up in Oneonta just the other day. I was so touched. There was a woman who had some extraordinary disease. I don't know what she had. And she was coming from the parking lot into the main store. And she was probably somewhere in her 50s. And she had parts of her hair were missing. She didn't have hair in places. Her whole face was all distorted. She had, obviously she'd had surgery, and her cheeks were gone, and she didn't have an arm on one side. She had a blouse on with the sleeve closed, and she had no breasts. Her chest was all caved in, and she was walking with her hands just dangling at the side. And there was a woman going in with her, and one of the clerks, one of the ladies, ran from her where she checks, ran over, grabbed her, gave her a kiss, and said, "Oh, honey, you look great." She said, "That's such a beautiful blouse." I thought, how wonderful that she saw this woman in pain, and she saw her beauty, and she just smiled, made her feel so good. Instead of being everybody in the store looked at her and said, "That poor thing," she saw her. I thought, wow. And I was standing there looking at her thinking, "Oh, that poor woman." And here this woman just saw her beauty and ran and embraced her. And I thought, what?
She knew her?
She was a checker. She probably comes there to shop once in a while. But she had everybody else was like scared to death of her. but she was so full of love. She just ran to this woman and kissed her, and I thought, man, what a waste I was. I felt pretty terrible. I didn't go kiss her though. I was thinking about it. I thought I'd scare her to death. But,
Sometimes it's difficult. I got yelled at yesterday while trying to help someone.
oh yeah, well that happens.
Yeah, I tried to talk to a man. He was sitting there. He wasn't, he didn't have a sign or cup or anything, but he was obviously homeless. And he looked, and he was Chinese. I asked him. He was Chinese. He came 10 years ago. So I had a little talk, but then he started looking around, and I felt like I was probably interrupting his not embarrassing, but he was trying to get money, and people weren't giving him. At least that's what I thought, probably, because he was kind of like, he felt uncomfortable, he looked uncomfortable. So I was like, okay, I probably need to go. But I asked him if he needed food, because he said, oh, no food, no shoes. So I didn't have shoes on me, so I offered him food, and he just turned away. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to force it. So I start walking away, and I hear him screaming, oh, these people, they just talk, they never help, they just talk.
And you got your number,
I'm
huh?
like, wait a second. I came back, and I'm like, what do you mean we don't help? I asked you if you want some food, and I'm still asking you if you want, I can still, get it to you. And he's like, no, I don't need any food, I don't need it. And the second I started walking back, he started screaming again. And, it was pretty late, so I went outside, and the shoe store was closed, so I couldn't get him any shoes. But I really tried, but...
I learned over the years, like when I lived in Harlem and else places, we often think we need things that we don't. And it is better to help someone learn to take care of themselves than it is to do it for them. But what everyone needs but doesn't understand is relationship. And people don't need you to fix their problems, even though they ask you. Mm-hmm. What they need is you to care, to be part of their life. And they don't know how to do that, or they wouldn't be sitting on the street asking. In America, there are exceptions, of course, but in America, you have to fall through the cracks. You have to do so many things in your life that you lock yourself out of a system that will care for you. Whether it's your own family, you have problems with your husband, wife, children, you did whatever, you caused alienation, yourself, your friends, whatever. All those things eventually all break down, and there you are at the bottom, and no one's going to help you because you burned every bridge you have. But it isn't that somebody's born and has nothing. And so what really is needed, how do you help them reconnect? Well, of course, and you can't do it in a second. But that's what we try to do when we get people, is to try and help them reconnect with themselves and with things around them, so they could then live. Sure, we gave them a place to sleep, we gave them food, we gave them clothes, but all the time helping them to eventually do it themselves, so they could connect with what they needed.
So what would be the right thing to do?
Well, you did what you thought was right, and that's good.
I tried to talk to him, so
it's very difficult if someone's in a position of their life where they have extracted themselves so far from connections to society that it's like an intrusion when you talk to them. They see you as part of their problem, even though you're not. They see you as the ones that have, and I don't, and it's part of it, and it's because the world's a mess. And so that's not where you start to make the connection. It's hard. Many people don't want, even though they do want it, they don't want the connection because they've lost how to deal with it. They've only been hurt so often, they can't deal with it anymore. And as a world, we're pretty much a failure when it comes to loving.
I was reading something amazing today in this book. Joseph the Elder,
Yes.
Joseph the Sagasi, they took a man to their place in Mount Athos.
Uh-huh.
He was an old man, and one of the monks wanted him. They take him to the monastery. And Father Joseph didn't want, but then he got there. In 3 days, he started having terrible diarrheas. And he had 20 blankets and 15 pants, but he
Couldn't
would
get warm.
shit all over. And from the head where they live to the toilet was just a trail
Oh,
of stinking metal. And the man started for obedience to his older,
Clean.
taking care of him every day. And the third day he wake up and he felt an amazing fragrance, and it smelled like mirror everywhere. And he saw that man with his feet full of excrements,
Uh-huh.
the trail, everything smelled wonderful. He could not understand. And this amazing thing lasts for 1.5 days. And he asked Father Joseph, why is this? Because he says, there is nothing wrong, there is nothing stinking in the world. It's we that stink. It's
Not true.
It's we. And this, if you have the grace of God, you just don't see, don't feel.
Yeah.
And he saw all those fools of Christ that used to live in the midst of excrement.
Yeah.
Do you think they were feeling this terrible stench? Not at all. What they were feeling is what we are feeling now, fragrance. Incredible, right?
We had at Emmaus once, in the middle of winter, a man was brought to the front of our building, and he had a plastic garbage bag with all his clothes in it, and he had AIDS. And this was in the early 80s, and they didn't know what AIDS was. And they literally threw him out of the car onto the street in the snow. Get rid of him. They didn't want the family to die, and they didn't want the disgrace. They were black, and they didn't know how to deal with it. And we brought him into the house. And he was just skin and bone. And he was crying. And he had, oftentimes in the early days of the AIDS, no one knew what it was, and he had AIDS, and so badly he was so sick, and he had diarrhea all over. And you could smell him. And we couldn't get the clothes off him because it had caked onto him and dried on him. And to take it, you were peeling his skin off when you were trying to take his clothes off. So we had to put him in the shower and let the water run long enough that it would peel the clothing off. And the man, oh God, he was such a wonderful young man that came to help us. He took him into the shower to clean him. And he was crying the whole time, this young man. And I thought, it's probably, I said, let me do it. It's strange. No. He says, it's Jesus I'm cleaning.
Yeah.
And I was so touched. This kid was like 25 years old, and he was crying because he was cleaning the Lord. And I thought, oh, there are saints living in this world.
Yes.
There
One
are.
of the monks told to him, wait, we don't put him back where he came from. And he told him, the Lord came to us, and now you want to
Get rid of him.
away.
Yeah.
Get rid of him.
This man's name was Emmanuel. He was Cuban. Can you imagine such a thing? And he had been dealing in drugs. He'd lost his family. This is the one who was helping the guy in the shower.
The Cuban one.
The Cuban one.
Yes.
He wasn't the one who had AIDS. He was the one who was helping the guy.
Yeah.
And he had heard about Emmaus House. And he walked from Miami with another friend, Luis. They walked from Miami to New York City to come work. And he got his life back together, stopped drugging and all that stuff. And he was helping this man in the shower.
Where he's now?
He went back to his family in Miami. That was many years ago. But we sent him on a bus. We didn't let him walk. He was the one that was so funny. He had such an incredible command of the English language with a heavy Cuban accent, but he knew both languages beautifully. And one of the guys said, oh, I've always wanted to go to Miami. I've always wanted to see Florida. And he goes, why? And he says, well, it's so tropical and beautiful. He says, did you see a lot of palm trees there? No, I'm sorry, did you see a lot of palms? He says, the only palms I saw were looking for tips. I thought it was a great line. Looking for tips. All right. Getting late.
Father, can I
Let
ask-
that light come out. Yes.
can I ask you one question before
Sure.
we finish? What does it mean usually when people like reject kindness or reject the love that you're talking about? And how do you?
Well, if you hurt,
Mhm.
if you don't have something,
Mhm.
it's hard to accept what you don't have. It's hard to see that somebody else has something.
I feel like they think you're crazy. I've had
Well,
people do that. To
But I
me.
mean, like when somebody's very, very poor,
Mhm.
and you come and you give them what they feel sometimes belittled because they can't give it to themselves, and they hurt.
Mm.
You've got to find a way to do it. Not that you're doing something for them, but they're doing something for you by allowing you to give it to them.
Mhm.
When you give somebody something, you should thank them. They should not thank you. You're getting the blessing.
Mhm.
God is allowing you to feed him. God is allowing you to go to the kingdom of God for giving some stupid sandwich. What a bargain. You go buy somebody a hamburger and you get into heaven. I mean, can you get any better than that? And so we have to see that it is we who are blessed that give, not the ones who get it.
For instance, if
Give it all away and you'll be happy.
yeah.
The only problem is when you literally try to give stuff away, then people keep giving you stuff. You say, I'm trying to get rid of this. Oh, here, have some more. There we go. No, go away. When we used to go and feed the homeless, I used to do it for years, and I would stay in the truck because everybody said, "Oh, thank you, Father, thank you, Father." And I said, "All these people are serving the food. Thank them, don't thank me." You know, but they see me and they say, "Oh, thank you, Father, thank you, Father." All right. Sunday after church, we came home. I said, we got to drive back to Treville. And I said, let's go. We got to get in that car. I said, I can't get out of this chair.